Hello and welcome to our Scissorhands training videos. I'm Ashley Howard, I'm the founder and owner of Scissorhands UK, and this is Charlotte Boyle. She's the head of our artistic team. And what we want to do in these videos is show you, the stylist, the salon owner, some really simple but really effective ways to cut the three main haircuts that we do in the salon. On our model right now in the chair, Amy, we're going to be showing you a classic bob haircut, slightly inverted, but like a lot of your clients, when they come in, they ask us for things like volume.
Yeah, volume, bounce, easy to do themselves.
Exactly. So what we're going to do is show you a very, very simple way. We'll be using a solid blade scissor. This one's a 7-inch. Yours, I think, is about 6.5. I'll be using our signature Evo blade for the vast majority of the haircut. Now don't worry, the techniques are very, very simple, and pretty much what you already do, is just the technology that we use will be slightly different. So, with that said, let's get on with the start of the haircut and the baseline of our bob. You can see we've sectioned off just as you normally do for a bob baseline. We want it to be slightly inverted, so all I'm going to do is comb the hair down without too much tension, put my blade in where I want to start that baseline shape, do one cut, and as you can see, that's cut quite a large piece of the section in one go. On most bobs, if I use a shorter blade, what you'll find is that you have to do more and more cuts in order to get that, which takes longer and is more difficult. But having said that, when you cut a baseline, remember, when you cut the hair wet, you know when you blow dry it, it's going to move. Yeah. So we're going to put that in now as our basic shape, and then when it's finished, we can just tweak it if we absolutely need to, because it's going to move in the blow dry anyway. So am I okay to hand over to you to finish off just doing that baseline? And we're going to come back when we look at the layering part and how we get that lovely voluminous shape in our bob. Remember, this is something that we went through when we first started to work together a few years ago. And can you remember then the difference when I showed you this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really changed the way that I cut hair in the salon. It's made it much more time effective because I'm not having to go through and do haircuts twice. Mm-hmm.
Something we hear a lot is where stylists are doing one haircut, they'll finish the haircut, and then what they'll do is they'll have to go back when the hair's dry and almost do a complete second haircut where they'll do things like they'll point cut the hair and personalise it in a way which is quite time consuming. Very time consuming, and actually you can only work on the very outer 3/4 of an inch when you're doing it point cutting, whereas this gives you the ability to work deeper into the haircut and sort of manage the weight of the haircut from the inside out. Yeah. When I designed the scissors originally, it was almost a necessity thing where I knew as a stylist I wanted to get that really nice full shape to the bob. Mm-hmm. But because I was having to use traditional techniques, I had to use my solid blade for everything. And like you say, when you're chipping in, you're not really getting in and making a difference when it comes to the volume of the haircut. No, unless you're getting in and sort of trying to sort of carve bits out from in between. But yeah, really sort of your point cutting, you're only working on the very outer inch of the haircut. Yeah. This is simpler in a nutshell. What I've tried to do with everything that we do at Scissorhands is simplify the cut, because a bob is what some people would class as a really technical haircut. Yeah. And it is actually, if you're putting solid graduation into the back of a bob, it's probably one of the most complicated haircuts to do. But this is just putting the graduation in a different way by using sort of weight removal to give a soft graduation. I've got to say, and it's still to this day, we've been doing this now for about 12 years. The first time we show somebody, you see this when we do the trade events and the shows around the country, people's faces when we first do this is like, what are you doing? Yeah. But then once they understand it and once they see the blow dry themselves, then that kind of changes the way that they see the whole haircut. The hardest thing is getting your head round doing something completely different to the way that we've been trained originally. Yeah. What do you find as a salon owner your clients think when you start cutting hair this way?
So my main feedback I get from clients is that it's easier for them to manage themselves, blow dry themselves at home, and also that it lasts longer.
Yeah.
So because you've gone a little bit deeper into the hair
Yeah.
when you're doing the cut, you get that little bit longer out of it
Yeah.
because you've got the shorter bits in there to last longer.
Yeah. I sometimes talk to hairdressers about almost giving the hair a scaffolding effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
When,
you've got those shorter pieces that sort of everything sort of sits on top of.
What I also like is I find that we don't have to cut as much length off the hair, whereas back in the day when I was using more traditional techniques, and like you said, when you're pointing into the hair with a traditional blade, sometimes you'll sacrifice to take a little bit of length off, which you sometimes don't want to do.
And you're not as controlled
Yeah.
unless you get every bit of that hair sitting perfectly still so that you can control where you're cutting into. You don't know that you could take too much off of somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So another question that we often get asked is there a difference if they're having a quite level bob or if they're having a really inverted bob in the technique that we do?
There's a very little difference. You're still going through the same sectioning patterns and everything. Obviously, you're putting your baseline in sloped and you're probably taking a little bit more off the length when you're doing your graduation. But the whole technique is the same. You're going through the same sections and pulling it out at the same angles.
So like you say, this is the probably the least interesting part because everybody knows how to cut a baseline shape.
Yeah.
And because it's not critical that it's absolutely perfect when you cut it wet, it's great. You can get on with the vast majority and just tweak that baseline when it's dry and it's moved a little bit. I think that's important sometimes because I know hairdressers that will spend hours making it perfect wet and then it all moves anyway.
Yeah, it all moves and you've got a hairline that bounces up
Yep.
and then you've got to go through and do it all again anyway.
Yeah. I would say there are clients that will come in for a bob and they'll sometimes ask you, why are you cutting my hair with those different scissors?
You do get very few that say that, but you'd be surprised how little
They notice?
they notice.
Yeah.
And if they trust you, they trust that what you're doing is correct.
Yeah. Okay, well thank you Charlotte. That's our basic baseline shape cutting on Amy's hair. I'm just going to spin around to show you that. Very simple, gentle inversion from shorter to longer, from the back to the front. And now what we're going to do is we're going to section off and show you how we're going to start in the nape area and start to really create that beautiful round bob shape. Okay, so now we've sectioned off. This is our nape section. What we're now going to use is the Evo blade. This is the one with the 15 gaps, and this is going to help create that lovely full round bob shape. All we do is we're going to section off. We're going to do around 3 to 4 sections in the nape area, and each section we take, we'll be taking out at 90 degrees, so that's straight out from the head. You know, I sometimes describe this to hairdressers as imagine your client had had an electric shock, the hair comes straight out from the head. As I take Amy's hair out, you can see through my fingers where the baseline is, and our guideline is here, which is our baseline length. We're going to use our Evo blade. We do our first cut in here, that's going to give us the volume we're looking for. And as we slide our left hand out, we cut our layers, and then as we get to the end here, this sharp pointed end, we just take that sharp point off, and you'll see straight away when you comb that section how the hair naturally now just wants to turn and tuck under. We've got lots and lots of volume in that section, and we're going to repeat that process through the nape, the middle and the top of each side of the haircut.
Would you always start so far in and take that point off of it?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, Charlotte, what I'm doing is I'm looking at the amount of hair that the client has, if they've got thick hair or fine hair. But when we take the hair out like this, and you can see there's our guideline again at the base, I need to do this first cut here because I know that's what's going to give me the volume. If the client's got less thick hair, we'll just do less cuts on our journey out to the point. In this case, Amy's got quite a lot of hair, so we've done another 2 cuts, and then we get to the point, just speed up our scissor a little bit like that, and it's really about balancing out the amount of weight you have in the section in order to give you the bounce you want, but leaving enough hair that it's still thick enough to have a nice solid shape. And you can see straight away these two sections that we've cut are now behaving totally different to the one which hasn't been cut. And you'll see this in a traditional bob. When someone has the haircut like this, they'll often struggle because the hair will want to flick out and kick out and things. And that's because it's almost like you've got an angled paintbrush and all the hairs reach the same point, kind of jostle for position, and it makes it difficult. But when we cut like this, and I'll show you this third section again, I'm just going to spin Amy around a little bit there. On this section it's slightly finer behind the ear, but the principle is the same. There we can see our guideline length. You can see there's less hair. We want the volume, but there's not as much of it, so just one cut there, and we just gently take that point off. And again, as soon as you comb the hair, you can see that it naturally now, instead of kicking out, it wants to tuck under, and that's just going to make life a lot easier when it comes to blow drying as well. Our second section is going to be from here to here. It just follows the angle of our bob shape. So just like the first time we ever went through this haircut together, can I hand it over to you and let you carry on and just carry on with the layering process? There we go.
So always taking the hair out 90 degrees from the head, right, Ash?
Yep, always 90 degrees. It's become a bit of a fun thing with a lot of my clients when we talk about how to cut the hair. I always say, imagine they've had an electric shock, and that's the angle you want to be at, because by doing that, a couple of really good things. It's always consistent, and by doing it, I describe it as an X-ray. As soon as you now take that hair out, you can see on your fingers, you have an X-ray of the entire shape of the haircut.
Yeah.
So you can see.
So I just want to point out here, this is where you take the tip of the section before off, so that's where the guideline is for this next section.
Absolutely. So that's our volume, layers,
and again,
and that point there. I love this. You can see where the hair's been cut, but then, no, that's great, you know. But then when you comb the hair through, there,
it disappears.
It disappears. You can't see, because a lot of clients have thought, because there are gaps in the blade, they think that you're going to see lots of chunky gaps in the hair. But we've designed it that it's always flawless and always very, very soft. But you'll see that in the blow dry.
Absolutely. So then we just repeat it as we go round. So it's really simple.
Yeah. I like it simple. It's really important to us, it always has been, that when a hairdresser looks at this, that little voice in their head's going to kick in and say, yeah, I can do that. That's not hard.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that's how it should be. Any hints that you've got when it comes to where the hair's a bit thinner or finer?
I mean, the reason that we do it, if you watch when I do this section, we always cut and then take the hair away, and sometimes we do it so quickly we forget to sort of mention that to our people. But that gives you the good indication of how much hair there is left to take. So every time we're assessing the section to see, so you never take too much hair away. You're in complete control of it all the time.
That's such a good point, and I forget this because when they cut the hair, the scissor, when it's closed, becomes a comb.
Yeah.
So you comb out the hair that's already been cut, and you can see what's left. Let's be honest, that's the bit she's going to walk out the salon with.
Yeah.
You can see how much you've got left, and you know how much then you've got to work with on that way out to the length.
So here, where it's a little bit finer,
yeah.
you just take that touch less off there.
Lovely. And in essence, that is the bob. Every section is cut with, let's look at the volume, our first cut, look at those inner layers, and then look at the overall length. Also, with the section that we do, we generally work from a central point here, and always working away from that central point, so we're travelling down the head.
Yeah.
I know for years when I worked in the salon full time with my more traditional way of doing things, I'd sometimes, because I'm right-handed, when I stood behind the client, on the left side I'd cut downhill, but on the right side I'd cut uphill, and I'd wonder why my haircuts didn't balance very well. But if you keep it simple, keep it consistent, you always get that.
It's
that
the
balance.
consistency, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
that's what's the difference with these scissors, is because you're consistently taking out a set amount, so you're not chipping into it and hoping for the best that it all looks the same. You've got that consistency there.
Yeah. What's interesting already is when you look at the section you've already cut compared to this side, which is what I'd call a really traditional bob. That side wants to tuck under and this side looks really different. Should we just put that to the camera so you can see the difference between your traditional finish here and then when it's cut with an Evo, how the hair sits. Yeah. Okay, so let's crack on and do the other side.
Yeah.
Very good. So now we've cut the back section, that's all done. We're moving through into the sides. Remembering it's a bob, what we often recommend to our clients is just take this front corner kind of temple section, and at this point just leave that part out of the haircut for now because we want to keep that nice strong shape through the front. And all that leaves you is these two sections through the sides, which we're going to treat the same as we did for the back sections, in that we take the hair out at 90 degrees, straight out from the head. There's our guideline, using our Evo. There's our volume through the cut. There's one more cut there for layers, and we just want to leave that point, that length on the section, again, because it's a bob. There, we take then our second section, do exactly the same, taking the hair out at 90 degrees, through the hands. You can see where your guide is here. So there's our volume. One more small cut there, and then just leaving that length.
Amy's got a lot less hair at the sides as well, so
Yeah.
a lot less cuts than what we did through the back sections.
Yeah, absolutely. And people sometimes forget that. There is a lot less hair to work with. But already, now we've cut that, you can see that the hair wants to naturally tuck under. But it's a really good point and something that we have to remind clients of sometimes. But there we go. There's our top part of that side section. I'm going to cut that again in two simple sections as I take the hair out, lifting the hair up nice and cleanly, take it at 90 degrees. This is where we're going to create our volume in the haircut. We're looking at how much hair she has. There's one more cut there, and then just gently we leave that corner on to go down. Then our second section through the top. Again, just leaving that very front part because that's our fringe. And this is really what gives you that nice round shape when you look at the bob from the front. Again, this is a slightly finer section, Charlotte, as you pointed out. There, and we're going to leave that. Now that is done. And again, you can see faintly where the hair's been cut there. But look, as soon as I put the comb through the hair, any marks disappear. So with that done, we're going to go through now, do exactly the same on the other side. The only difference being that because the parting is on this side, instead of doing 2 sections, we've got a third section to do on the top, but it's exactly the same. So here we are. Here's our finished result. A classic inverted, beautiful bob shape, lots of volume, lots of bounce. You can see the amount of lift we've created. And because we haven't had to cut the overall length, you create this lovely, beautiful, thick-looking, bouncy bob. And as we said, it's a really simple haircut.
Yeah, it gives it a sort of sharp shape, but with softness to it, which is what I really like about it.
Yeah, and remember, all you have to do, solid blade, classic cut the baseline in, and then simply from the bottom, the middle, and the top, take your Evo, cut your volume, then your inner layers, and then your overall length, all the way around the haircut. And that is our way of cutting what we think is a great, voluminous, easy to blow dry bob. So something we've introduced this year is clients were asking us of a quick, simple way to understand what we do. Now this is our bob on a block head, and what we've done is we've put in an instant snapshot of exactly how you create this bob cut. You can see here where the green cut is for the volume, where the yellow is for the inner layers, and the white areas for the length. You can see the bottom, the middle, and the top sections. You can also see the direction that your scissors travel whilst you're doing the cut. You can also see that all the hair is pulled at 90 degrees, and as we said, a little bit like your client's had an electric shock, but just to remind you of exactly how to go about this haircut, even to the point where we explain about how to be careful and leave out the temple section so you get that nice point on your bob shape.